Summertime has finally... Summertime has finally ended. Coronation Street has a young character called Summer Spellman, who was initially brought in to be the... Well, it's a fairly large archetype in terms of soaps, where they're brought in to be this, like, smart, funny, but still, like, high-achieving, yet, like, more mature than their age suggests. And this was Summer Spellman, who was brought in and eventually guardianed by Billy and whoever Billy's with, now forming a lovely dynamic with Billy, Todd, and Paul, having this weird, like, three dads type situation. Now, this was all going fine, and they presented this just like this, and very well, until the initial actress, Matilda Freeman, decided that she no longer wanted to be a part of the show. When usually, instead of doing this, they simply move the character off screen and just say, okay, you can move on, but the character will be off the show for now. But instead, the Coronation Street crew decided they were going to recast the character of Summer Spellman to Harriet Bibby. Now, this isn't supposed to be an attack on Harriet Bibby, but knowing where the character of Summer proceeded to go, it's not very much a surprise that the previous actress who was playing this smart kid who fought against her nan's inherent homophobia and this high rolling didn't want to see the character she'd spent 3 years playing end up simply becoming another troubled teen. Now, these characters in soaps always have issues, and there's always a bit of a struggle. But, see, the second Summer left, or the second the Matilda Freeman left, it started to kind of go down. Why? Well, she started to have to seek a lot more of the typical teenage troubles. Because as soon as this happened, Summer then had to deal with a diagnosis of diabetes, a battle with bulimia, becoming so paranoid that she would cheat on an exam, which would lead to her chances of going to Oxford be compromised, a surprise pregnancy which turned into later being an adoption, and a miscarriage, all of which happened in the span of about a year. It's been it's been a very packed summer for Summer, but why is there such an inherent issue with this character, and why is it to be celebrated now that the character is moving towards a much more a much lesser role? Because a lot of 2022 and the start of 2023 were plagued with all these sudden storylines for the character. And it didn't have the same issue as 2020 Coronation Street, where they had to slowly lessen the amount of episodes, so some weeks it felt like nothing was happening. But this time it felt like everything was happening, and it didn't feel like we were getting Summer. Because as good as the recast is, there was always something so uncanny about Harriet Bibby's iteration of the character. It felt like they wanted to take the character in a much different direction, but the past didn't really represent the present. They kind of took there was a fork in the road, and they decided to jump over the fork in the road, which was not on the cards, but ultimately made a lot of us scratch our heads, and probably made Summer one of the least liked characters in general on the soap. Because the main issue when you suddenly change I'd say she was a fairly developed character. Once you finally change this from what they were initially meant to be, comes with a lot of very raised eyebrows. Nobody really knows how to think, and when this character turns from the, like, intelligent, smart, head and shoulders, mature character into the generic soap teenager, some questions start to get raised. has it all been bad? I mean, no, not fundamentally. I mean, it brought together the wonderful dynamic that I think we can all agree of, being the three dads of Summer. I think that was a great character trait that they brought in, and a very fun set piece to use. And we brought on Aaron, who, admittedly, as of recording this, has done some slightly heinous things. By slightly heinous, I mean very heinous things. Accidental it may have been. So, why is it so good that summertime has ended? Well, it gives the character some time to breathe, and it gives the character some time to feel a little bit more real, because there's so much happened. There was so much bad. Like, the only example I can give to kind of mirror it would be Whitney Dean in EastEnders, because Whitney never got any happy storylines, as everything that would happen to her would happen in the same way and be just as dramatic or depressing as expected. And she would just kind of naively get into these situations, except the difference between Whitney Dean and Summer Spellman is that Whitney Dean's she's not blessed with smarts. It's going to sound really condescending. You know, she isn't fundamentally a very smart character. She's had to go from, one thing to another. It's a big struggle. So that's why it makes sense there. But when they suddenly take this character who was brought in to be this smart, future smart character on the show, and they proceed to degrade this by making her the generic soap teen, it just kind of makes you wonder what went wrong. And it went wrong for a good year and a bit. But ultimately, Summer has moved away out of the spotlight, so hopefully summertime's over, and hopefully the next time we have a big summer storyline, they actually remember who the character is and what they are brought into the show for. Rather than just deciding, why not just use this pre-existing character and do these other storylines that we did want to do, but we didn't really have the right choice. And it felt like they all got put directly onto Harriet Bibby. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay. But there was a lot of struggles, and there was a lot of upset in the summer period. But ultimately, the show perhaps kind of ran into another issue where they then proceeded to put the rocket on another character's back, and they really aren't capable of carrying it. So, what did you think of Summer Spellman's very awful, very rough year? Did you like it? Do you like the character? Do you wish the actress never left? Do you wish that the character could be how they used to? I don't know. I think I don't mind the new actress. I think she does a good job. But I also think that they need to rethink who they believe Summer as a character is, because ultimately she is very barely representing what they initially brought her onto the show for. But are you happy about it? And if you are, make sure to comment down below. I have been Ash from watching Walford, and make sure to join us next time.